So I recently have discovered the problematic past of limecrime, and this was right after I had just purchased something from them, which has now arrived. There were two things, but I'm just going to show one because the other thing is like a hair dyeing thing that I'm not allowed to do until the school holidays. So this is like the inside of like the package that I got, which is kind of cute, and the thing that I ordered was this like brow thing. This is the only thing I'm going to show in this video from limecrime. I'm just going to do my makeup, give my review on this thing, and go through the problematic past of limecrime. So I saw this thing on TikTok. I feel like I've talked about this before, but basically it's supposed to make your skin look really good and last really long. It's a process of like doing foundation essentially, but like basically what you do is like you moisturize, then you put powder on, and then you put your primer on top of the why did I not turn that on from the start? Anyway, you moisturize, put on the powder, then put your primer on top of your powder, and then put your foundation on after that. So I mix my foundations. I use the Too Faced and the Tarte stick. So limecrime was founded by Deere, who basically started limecrime selling clothes on eBay and stuff like that. Deere is not her real name, and even when she was selling clothes, she would get accused of stealing designs a lot. So there's already like a scandal within her like clothing thing. And in 2008, she dressed up as Hitler for Halloween, which obviously a lot of people thought was insensitive. And then there was this thing where like she threatened to take legal action over this 13-year-old online because of like photo credits or some shit, which is ironic due to her past of allegedly stealing designs for her clothing. So in 2009, this is when limecrime was actually like a beauty makeup thing now. They mostly just like sold lipsticks at this point, and then she got accused of repackaging their lipsticks, kind of the thing that like Morphe does. I don't know if they still do it, but like it's how they started. They just like bought it from a wholesale place and then just repackaged them and sold them for a much higher price. And to combat this, Deere posted a video online showing like the reject lipsticks to prove that there was actually a process that she was involved in that went into making the lipsticks. The two odd things about this was that she never showed the actual process of it, which I think I understand. Like, can't people then kind of steal that? I don't know. But she didn't show the process of making the lipsticks, and the video was later removed for unknown reasons. And a lot of negative reviews of limecrime were met with Deere pursuing legal action. This girl called Courtney got sued for, I believe, $250,000. And somebody else online that goes by the name Gray got sent a cease and desist, and that's like a whole messy thing on its own. They later like faked their death to get out of it or whatever. Here's where it gets tricky though. The letter is difficult to verify because that blogger, Gray, faked her death and was subsequently doxxed from the internet once before by the online netting community. They also failed to launch an independent monthly subscription box, allegedly keeping the donated products and much of the money sent. Internet commenters upset with her misrepresentation on the internet leaked her personal information, and CPS were allegedly sent to her house. Those who knew her before she abandoned her indie cosmetics persona believed that the letter she received was an authentic demand by limecrime, regardless of her character flaws. We have no evidence to prove one way or the other. I suppose it doesn't matter. It worked. Gray took the post down, and others still consider it evidence of limecrime's drama. And then the next year, in 2010, Christine of Timtalia, who was and still is, I believe to this day, one of the most influential, if not the most influential beauty blogger, and they gave limecrime a C- grade, which obviously isn't the best. And to retaliate, Deere sent out Christine's personal email to supporters of limecrime so that her fans could tell Christine that the lipsticks and the products were actually really good, which I think is really petty and gross and a complete invasion of privacy. Surely that's got to like violate some sort of law, because surely her personal email address isn't like public information. In 2012, okay, this is where I start to really take a problem with her. She released this China doll palette. I'm just gonna give you a couple seconds to maybe think about why people were upset about this. Have y'all got it? The model is white, but not only is the model white, for this China doll palette, they are wearing Japanese garments, which to me just shows a blatant disregard for the culture that she's trying to profit off of. And she responded to some people on Twitter saying, "Do you find Disney's Aladdin offensive too? Personally, we think it's wonderful. How do you feel about Disney's Aladdin? Also stereotyping?" Which is just so immature and completely avoiding the problem. First of all, are you seriously comparing yourself to Disney? Second of all, do not try to use a scapegoat so that you get out of trouble for something that you did that was insensitive. Also, when did Disney make a part of Asia wear a different part of Asia's cultural clothing due to their blatant disregard and lack of knowledge about that culture? I'm gonna pause for a minute because I am going to try do these brows now. I've never really done soap brows before, which is kind of what, because it's one of those like felt tip pen flicky thingies. I'm not using soap. I'm just going to use gel, which I suspect is not going to make much of a difference. Do I set these? because like my brows are very like pokey outy, so I don't really know what to do. Okay, so I'm opening her up. It's called the Bushy Brow Precision Pen. This is what she looks like. I got it in the shade Smoky, which is like the darkest brown, I'm assuming. I usually do like Instagram brows, so I don't really try to go the natural route, and I don't really know how to do natural. I'm going to try my best, but if anyone comes for me, I will cry. I've never really used one of these like brush tips before, so I don't really know what the standard is for them, but I think this might be like the one and only time I ever use like one of these brush tip pen brow things. Maybe I just need more practice with it because I feel like it could be really nice, or maybe it just doesn't work on me. I'm suspecting this would last longer because it's kind of like a felt pen kind of thing. Yeah, in conclusion, I just feel like I spent way too much time and effort for my brow to turn out like this. I feel like it's more like my experience with it though. I just feel like it might be something that I need to get used to. I was almost going to put this on before gelling my eyebrows. I don't remember how much this was. I'm pretty sure it was around the $20 mark, which I personally just don't think is worth it. Like, I feel like the only thing that would justify it being $20 is if like it lasted really long. I don't know if it just like wasn't very full coverage to begin with. You could like very clearly see that that's where I don't have my eyebrow, so I don't know if it's just like running out really fast or if it just wasn't that bold to begin with. I don't know what happened to the front of my brow hair, but it is very harsh and I don't know how to get rid of it. But I ended up grabbing this like really cheap black eyeliner, and that's just what I used for the ends of that. So Deere had just responded to some couple of people on Twitter comparing her China doll palette to Disney's Aladdin, and then she posted a statement, I believe on like Reddit or something, and she said, Limecrime's China doll campaign caused a bit of an uproar in the blogging community. While most of you saw it for what it is, a beautiful photograph inspired by China, some were genuinely offended because it referenced China. As the brains behind the campaign, I wanted to share some of my own thoughts. Is China doll meant to portray authentic China? Not any more than a Hollywood movie is meant to portray reality. I'm a makeup artist, not a historian. Representing an entire race in a historically accurate manner is an ill-fitted task. Me and my team's goal was to create a fantasy inspired by China, which we did through creative means available to us, such as styling, makeup, hair, and photography. Painters, architects, and composers have interjected their work with elements borrowed from other cultures for centuries because it made their works more memorable and fresh. It wouldn't be very fun to be an artist if you were only allowed to reference cultures in a 100% authentic way. Personally, I like to mix things up and find inspirations in all corners of the world. My wardrobe and house incorporate Spanish, Chinese, Moroccan, and Russian motifs. Why did you select a non-Asian model for China doll? Before I answer this, let me make it clear that I think Asian women are beautiful, and I've worked with a few in the past as a makeup artist. However, since our China doll was not meant to necessarily be Asian, she could be portrayed by a person of any descent. China doll is a character, an amalgam of inspirations ranging from dolls to Shanghai Art Deco advertising posters. We chose Hannabeth, who was a total sweetheart by the way, because she has lovely features and embodies the spirit we wanted. And yes, the name is a pun that refers to both China and porcelain. Aren't you promoting negative Asian stereotype? Anyone who has read the China doll press release knows that it's not what this is about. Our China doll is strong but not afraid to cry, rebellious but in control, traditional and untamed all at once. These are all human qualities, not associated with any race in my opinion. She is a living contradiction and above all a woman. She can never be and will never be stereotyped. I couldn't think of a better person to portray her than the tattooed nose ring donning Hannabeth. What is your stance on cultural appropriation? I was at Anna's Linens the other day and saw this Asian garden bathroom set. I found myself wondering if this seemingly innocent shower curtain was offensive to somebody. What is cultural appropriation anyway? You can read the Wikipedia article here, but to summarize, it's the borrowing of certain cultural elements by another cultural group. To be honest, I find the notion a little silly. It implies that unless you are Japanese, you can't cosplay as your favorite anime character or write manga without offending somebody. You can't sing the blues or release a rap album if you aren't born black. And you most certainly cannot make this collection if you aren't Karl Lagerfeld. Call me crazy, but I find this whole cultural appropriation thing, or cultural exchange as I like to call it, kind of brilliant actually. I think it encourages acceptance, enriches our existence, and makes us more tolerant toward other humans all over the world. Borrowing from other cultures and letting borrow is vital to ending racism, bigotry, and misanthropy. To say nothing of the art and music it has given us throughout the years, Mozart's March a la Turca, Tchaikovsky's Chinese dance from the Nutcracker, and the entire Japonism movement in art, just to name a few. Not all that pertains to race has to be racist, just like not every cultural reference has to be met with opposition. What matters is intent. As an artist and a human being, I have the right to be inspired and wanting to explore, adapt, and otherwise express myself through things I find wonderful. In conclusion, China doll is not a marketing gimmick. It's a concept I've nurtured for an entire year, believed in, and thought about every night before I went to sleep. It came from a good place in my heart, and it saddens me to see anyone get offended by it. If you did find it offensive on any level, for that I am sorry. Having said this, China doll will live. I am not going to kill her just because photos and make some people uncomfortable, and that would require sacrificing my artistic integrity and sending a radical message that I don't believe into the community. I'd like to acknowledge everyone who has supported limecrime throughout the years. After spending a year in development, I can promise you that behind the photo shoot, China Doll is simply great makeup. I hope you can give it a chance. Love, Deere. So, my stance on it. First of all, it is a non-apology. I mean, in my opinion, she showed no remorse whatsoever throughout the entire apology, but you could argue that she was somewhat empathetic towards the end. Only in her conclusion of this long-ass statement did she actually acknowledge the feelings of those who were offended at all. It was also just straight up disrespectful. I don't know how else to put it. It was just rude. And you do not get to say that cultural appropriation doesn't exist by trying to ignore the existence of cultural appreciation. People don't get mad at people making or listening to rap music or cosplaying or stuff like that because people aren't being stupid. Like, that's not appropriating somebody's culture. I'm getting a little loud and heated. I'm gonna try and fix the start of my right eyebrow by adding maybe setting powder to see if that could like calm down the harshness of it. Like, how much of an apology can this really be? If you're more upset over the fact that people want you to pull back the palette, then you are upset at yourself for offending an entire culture. My eyebrow looks like a fucking block and I don't know how to fix it. I'm honestly just gonna keep on adding setting powder until something happens. It looks absolutely ridiculous in real life. It doesn't even look like the setting powder doesn't look that bad on camera. It kind of just looks like my skin. Trust me, it fucking isn't, and it looks stupid, but I want it to be fixed.
I love how she says historically accurate as if Chinese people aren't to this day and will be in the future Asian.
Yeah, I don't really know how to fix it, but it's not nearly as harsh in real life as it is on camera, so y'all are just gonna have to deal with that. You as a white, like completely pale ghost Casper white person, do not get to say that people aren't allowed to be offended by your racial insensitivity. I feel like her apologizing and like her being sorry for offending people was like the last of her worries. Like, it was the last thing that she actually gave a damn about in that entire statement. So I'm going to read out a response from this girl called Mai, who is a Vietnamese beauty blogger. She's completely missing the point where she says the notion is a little silly. It's other people's cultures. They should have at least the right to be offended or bothered when somebody appropriates their culture, especially if they're doing it in a bad way. People who are hurt or offended by a cultural appropriation aren't saying you can't do this because you're not blank. It's you shouldn't profit from my culture considering what we go through. She also mentions how Deere had conveniently missed out the following lines on the definition of cultural appropriation, which says, it describes a culturalization or assimilation but can imply a negative view towards a culturalization from a minority culture by a dominant culture. It can include the introduction of forms of dress or personal adornment, music and art, religion, language or social behavior. These elements, once removed from their indigenous cultural context, can take on meanings that are significantly divergent from or merely less nuanced than those they originally held. I'm certainly not saying that other people can't be inspired by other cultures, or in this case that non-Asian/outsiders can't enjoy, appreciate or be a part of Asian or outside culture. We wouldn't be aware of other cultures if it weren't for people outside the culture seeking to study and learn about it, and for the members of the culture to want to inform others. Cultures are all different and they're meant to be appreciated for their differences. I think she summarized it and described the problem with China Doll really, really well. Mai is clearly very articulate and I admire her for that. You do not get, like, I just feel like you do not get to say what is and isn't offensive and what is and isn't appropriating a culture that you are not a part of. And when you get responses from people in that culture, or just Asians in general, because she was profiting off Chinese culture, but she also like messed it up and included other cultures within that. So when people from Asia are calling you out for being racially insensitive towards other Asian cultures, your response should not be, this isn't what it isn't actually offensive, it isn't actually cultural appropriation, and cultural appropriation actually isn't a thing. It should just be, I am sorry and I will do better. I personally wouldn't expect somebody to pull the palette, but that would have been admirable. I understand that you didn't want it to be like a 100% authentic and accurate representation of China, but it was racially insensitive and it was appropriating the culture. So you completely not seeing that because it portrays real Chinese culture just as much as Hollywood portrays reality is completely narrow-minded and insensitive and just shows the lack of empathy that you have for other people. So there's this blog called Deere Lies, and in 2014 Deere filed a lawsuit against them being the person that was behind the blog, and the website was taken down. I've used this for liner before and I had an issue with it because it wasn't really black, it was kind of like watery, but it seems to be working okay. I think it was just a matter of breaking through to it. So in 2014, the same year that Deere Lies got the lawsuit, the limecrime website got hacked and customers reported fraud up to $10,000. And in response to this, limecrime insistently claimed that their website was 100% safe and that there was no hacking whatsoever. And they ended up having to take action because like obviously it wasn't safe considering how many customers kept on reporting fraud and stuff like that. Like this happened to like multiple people, up to like thousands and thousands of dollars. So obviously something was happening. They eventually took action and like repaid people, but some people to this day still haven't been reimbursed. Switching to my liquid liner because I just can't be fucked right now. I haven't been the biggest fan of liquid liner recently because of my extensions, but they're kind of falling out anyway, so it's not like it's that big of a deal. I fucked up my liner, I made it too thick, and I'm desperately trying to fix it. So in 2015, limecrime received an official warning from the FDA. Apparently the issue was due to like mislabeling and nothing was actually wrong. This was claimed by limecrime, but the FDA couldn't confirm or deny this story. And the FDA doesn't like have authority to like force a brand to recall products or force brands to test their products before selling them. They're basically there to just approve and disapprove of things so that if something is FDA approved, you know for a fact that it is technically safe to use. And finally in 2011, the company was sold to, I believe, Kim Walls, and the company's been doing a lot better in recent years, and it's kind of been slowly improving ever since deere kind of lost control slowly since 2016. So yeah, I'm pretty sure she has nothing to do with the company now, and I love that for the brand. I recently got this setting spray. It's the Wet n Wild Natural Finish setting spray, and it is assholes. When you spray it on your face, it makes your face sticky and wet and it looks like you've been sweating profusely. So I've kind of been 100% relying on setting powder. I just like the feel of setting sprays. You know what I mean? Like after you spray it and then it dries like normally, even if it like literally doesn't do anything, it just feels like your makeup is set. You know what I mean? My lashes are like so straight. I don't really know what I did to fuck them up like this because I know for a fact that my eye has a curve in it, but that's okay. And I'm done. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you like this video or if you liked me, make sure to like and subscribe. If you didn't like me, then make sure to get in contact with my teachers because I bet you'll have them a lot in common. And make sure to stay safe and stay hydrated.